As a Rotary Youth Exchange Counselor, it is assumed you are genuinely interested in the program and are easily able to relate to young people and gain their confidence. This pays off when you are put in the position to make difficult decisions and asked to give personal advice. Here's what one person has to say about being a counselor.
I've been a counselor for the Rotary Youth Exchange program for about 17 or 18 students over the years. We always try to act like the grandparents of the host students. They're somebody we're somebody that they can come and cry on our shoulder when they can't get along with their host family or can't get along at school or whatever. And so we're kind of a sounding board for that.
The counselor must not be a member of the student's host family. Counselors must be trained in responding to any problems or concerns which may arise during the exchange. This may include instances of physical, sexual, emotional abuse, or harassment. It is also highly recommended that the counselor be of the same gender as the student. Counseling is a very rewarding experience, serving youth, host families, and Rotary clubs. And while you are not involved on a day-to-day basis, there are significant responsibilities for which you will need to make time. Being a counselor for a Rotary Exchange student is a very exacting and personal task, which different people will handle in their own individual manner. Following are some important points to keep in mind. Establish contact by letter or email with both the student and his or her parents, giving them information to assist in their final travel preparations. Get details of the student's anticipated date and time of arrival, and ensure arrangements have been made to meet the students upon arrival. During the first week of a student's stay in the country, it is preferable that the student stays with the counselor. If this is not possible, the counselor must then set aside a time to spend with the student so that a meaningful spirit of cooperation can be achieved. It is extremely important that a counselor establish a relationship with the student so that if a problem arises, it can be discussed in an open and frank manner. On the student's arrival in the country, the club counselor must determine that the student has proper insurance policies, check the student's visa, passport and entry documents are in good order. Check the student's airline ticket to be sure that the student is in possession of a full return trip ticket. The ticket should be kept in a safe and readily accessible place in case of emergency travel or early return. Ensure the student either telephones or emails confirmation of his or her safe arrival to the parents back home. Review the Rotary Youth Exchange rules and club expectations regarding the exchange. Be aware that language difficulties may exist, and it's important to ensure the student understands. If needed, seek an interpreter. The counselor should enroll the student in school and act as an emergency contact. Open an emergency bank account with the Rotary designated minimum amount requiring dual signatures. A second account may be opened for the student's personal use. Arrange the method and dates for payment of the monthly stipend to the student. The counselor should keep in regular contact with the student during the entire exchange. Some of these contacts must be outside of the regular Rotary meeting and should happen frequently, at least twice a month. Likewise, the counselor should make frequent calls to the host parents and the school to ascertain that there are no problems arising. If the student is required to submit regular reports to the host district, the sponsor district, and a sponsor club, the counselor should make sure that these reports are being submitted. Make the club aware of important dates, including birthdays and holidays. Independent travel is prohibited. Extended travel, school, Rotary, and family-sponsored trips may be allowed, but must be approved by the club and district chair to assure that the plans meet requirements of the program. It is not the counselor's duty to make decisions regarding extended travel. Counselors should be acquainted with the rules of the program so they can ensure the student is abiding by these rules. Counselors should keep in mind that they are to guide and to assist these young exchange students during this exciting time of their life. It is imperative that counselors should be fully aware of the vital role that they play in the program and their contributions to its success. Counselors must keep the lines of communication open and try to keep the club members involved in overseeing and guiding the activities of the students and initiating changes and controls where necessary. Counselors should always feel comfortable and are encouraged to contact the district chair in helping to resolve students' concerns like homesickness, academics, or behavior. Under no circumstances will a student be sent home or permitted to go home prior to the end of the school year without permission of the hosting district chair. The natural parents of the sponsoring Rotary contact must be consulted prior to the departure of the student. Although it is rarely an issue, sexual harassment and sexual abuse are two topics that need to be addressed. It is important that everyone, including the students, parents, counselors, and host families, reference this section. The facts and procedures discussed in this section could prove to be of great importance. So let's get started by reviewing a couple basic definitions. Sexual abuse. Forcing or encouraging someone, regardless of age or gender, to engage in implicit or explicit sexual acts alone or with another person. Sexual abuse examples are many and varied and range from strong physical offenses to indecent exposure or expecting a student to look at sexual or pornographic material. Sexual harassment. Not as severe as abuse. It refers to sexual advances, requests for favors, or verbal or physical conduct of a sexual nature. Often a technique used by sexual predators to desensitize or groom their victims for abuse. Examples of sexual harassment range from sexually explicit jokes to physical touching or brushing. It may be less likely to see harassment coming. Here are a few common ways people may be harassed. 1. While at a museum with his exchange student, Mr. Smith spent an unusual amount of time taking Sharita around to see sexually suggestive objects, pictures, and sculptures. 2. When Jose got ready for bed, Mrs. Jones would stop by his room, leering in, and would give a slight sound hinting that he was very sexy. 3. After watching an R-rated movie together, the obscene language or gestures in it are repeated over and over again for no good reason. 4. Sexually suggestive comments that are not appreciated are given out on a regular basis. An individual continually comments and gloats about his or her sexual activity and prowess. So now you know the basic definitions of abuse and harassment, as well as some examples. I think by now we all know what we're dealing with. The next question is, what do we do about it? In most sexual abuse or harassment situations, the first to hear about it is the student's Rotarian counselor. It is their duty to look after the well-being and safety of the student and abide by the following guidelines. Of course, if the allegations involves the conduct of the counselor, the student or host family should contact the host club's program chair or district chair. Your Rotary district should provide you with some written instructions on how to report sexual abuse or harassment. Following are some of the key steps to be taken in the rare event sexual abuse or harassment allegations have been made. Meet with the student and listen attentively. Stay calm and acknowledge that it takes a lot of courage to report abuse or harassment. Be encouraging and do not express shock, horror, or disbelief. Get the facts, but don't interrogate. Avoid asking why questions. Try to establish what was done and who did it. Be non-judgmental. Do not criticize anyone or anything that has happened, and it is especially important not to blame the student. Assure privacy, but not confidentiality. Explain that you have to tell someone about the abuse or harassment for it to stop, and that this will make sure that it doesn't happen again. Reassure the student that he or she did the right thing by telling you. Remind them that your responsibility is to represent their account of the situation to the proper authorities. Whoever is contacted first must ensure the safety and well-being of the student by removing them from the situation immediately. All contact with the alleged abuser or harasser must cease. Give reassurance to the student. This is for his or her safety and is not a punishment. Keep a written record of all conversations you have had with the student. This should include the date and time of the conversation. Use the student's words and record only what has been told to you. Do not contact or challenge the alleged offender. In cases of abuse, interrogation must be left entirely to the law enforcement authorities, who should be contacted as soon as you become aware of the situation. Rotary International must also be informed of any allegations within 72 hours of it being reported to district personnel. Rotary will cooperate with all police or legal investigations. You will likely be requested to provide the following information: the student's name and location, the suspected perpetrator's name and relationship to the child, if known, a description of what you have seen or heard regarding the abuse or neglect, the names of people having knowledge of the abuse, your name and phone number. In cases of harassment, a report must be made to the Rotary Club District Youth Exchange leadership. The District Youth Exchange Chair and District Governor are responsible for having an investigation conducted. This may be done by a District Youth Protection Officer or committee and may vary from district to district. In all cases, the privacy of both the exchange student and alleged adult abuser will be respected during the investigation. Details of abuse must be reported to local law enforcement or state agencies. In conclusion, while it is very rare that abuse or harassment ever takes place on a Rotary Youth Exchange program, it is our responsibility to inform and educate you on the proper procedure for handling this subject, in the case it does occur. For a complete list of these guidelines, check your district or multi-district website, or with your Youth Exchange chair. There is also a printable PDF version available at the end of this DVD. As a counselor for the Rotary Youth Exchange program, you will make a difference in someone's life and your own.